Antonio Fontanesi, 1818–1882, November 1864. Oil on canvas, 103 centimeters by 153 centimeters. Horizontal format. Signed on bottom right. The painting depicts a country landscape. We see a seated peasant girl with her head lowered. To her left is a majestic tree, whose branches stand out against the blue sky filled with clouds. At the foot of the tree is a sheep raising its head and nibbling at some leaves. The scene unfolds horizontally. 1/3 of the canvas is occupied by the light blue sky, veiled with white and pinkish clouds, both in the foreground and in the background, thereby giving the impression of a warm autumn day right before sunset. Aside from the dim light from the sky, the rest of the painting is dark, as if the characters were seen against the light. The only human figure is the shepherd girl, quite small in size with respect to the entire landscape surrounding her. She sits on a rock at the center of the painting, in profile, looking toward the right. She wears a wide-brimmed hat, and her head is lowered. Her face is not clearly visible. She wears a long dark blue dress with a handkerchief tied around her neck and over her back. She sits on some light-colored fabric placed on the rock. At her feet, we notice a path that winds into the background of the landscape. Slightly raised behind her, on the left, is a tall barren tree. Its branches, bearing their last few leaves, thin out, extending into the top part of the canvas. The sky and clouds that cover the entire surface of the painting, from one side to the other. Below the tree is the girl, depicted in profile, facing left. She's barely visible, since the shadows in this part of the canvas are accentuated. Behind this tree, in close-up, are 2 other trees in the distance. A melancholic mood pervades the painting. We feel the silence surrounding the girl. Her isolation is emphasized by the proportions with which Fontanesi depicts her. A small figure surrounded by the beauty of the majestic nature, overpowering her. Fontanesi's practice, in which nature is depicted in a realistic manner, changed in the early 1860s to represent the feelings and moods of the subject portrayed. His interest in landscape painting, therefore, was actually a pretext to convey the emotional state of his characters, who take on symbolic significance. In this particular case, the girl's solitude is a metaphor for inner solitude. This painting, along with other celebrated works by Fontanesi, was presented in Turin in 1864 at the exhibition held by the Promotrice di Belle Arti, where it was purchased by King Vittorio Emanuele II. The theme of the solitary shepherd girl would appear several times in the painter's work, as in the canvas Solitude, 1876, held at the Museo Civico in Reggio Emilia. Critics were divided as regards November. The more traditionalist ones did not appreciate it, whereas others praised it precisely because there was no search for realism in the way the artist painted the natural elements, such as trees, rocks, or grass, but rather because it contained an idea, a state of mind that speaks to the viewer's thoughts and hearts, even more than to their eyes. In 1901, for the newspaper La Stampa, the Italian intellectual and critic Enrico Tovez wrote an article praising Fontanesi's work, defining the artist from Reggio Emilia as the poet of air, and light. The GUM owns over 600 works by Fontanesi, including paintings, drawings, and engravings. The majority of paintings reached the museum thanks to a bequest by the magistrate and poet from Turin, Giovanni Camerana, the artist collector and fiduciary heir.